Pessimism is a luxury a Jew could never allow himself. When Abraham, the first Jew, despaired, God took him outside and said to him, "Gaze now towards the heavens and count the stars." That is the Jewish response to despair. To look beyond the here and now, and to be conscious of the world, not as it is, but as it should be. It is our mandate to be the nation who brings light when it is dark. When we were putting together this tekes, we decided to focus on stories of South Africans and their affinity to the state of Israel. I now call on representatives from the youth movements and schools to come forward to tell these stories of our fallen.
Neil Fried and Dudi Silbowitz by Daniel Barnett. Neil Fried was born in Johannesburg on the 13th of April, 1948. Dudi Silbowitz was born in Cape Town on the 12th of December, 1949. Both became much-loved leaders of Ichud Habonim, the predecessors to Habonim Dror, and both made Aliyah to Israel in the early 70s, where they settled on Kibbutz Yisrael in the same Habonim Garin. Upon joining the IDF, the two friends both joined the tank unit of the Nachal Brigade, traditionally an infantry unit for new immigrants. Both Chevra appreciated that the army was an integral part of the absorption process and learned to speak excellent Hebrew. Within their unit, they were renowned as well-liked, dedicated, and talented soldiers. In September 1973, only 2 months after they had left the army, the Yom Kippur War broke out. Recalled to their tank unit, Neil drove the machine while Dudi manned the artillery. During the war, both men fought in the Sinai Peninsula and eventually crossed the Suez Canal into Egypt, where they were deployed to the Abu Sultan area. On the 22nd of Tishrei, 18th of October 1973, their unit was ambushed by Egyptian forces. The tank that both men were in received a direct hit from the west, but continued to move forward ablaze. A sitting target, the tank took a second hit before blowing up. None of the crew survived. 3 days before their death, Aryeh Gordon, an American-born Israeli reservist, met Neil and Dudi and recalled later what happened. "I spent half an hour with Dudi and Neil. What caught my eye, indeed what caught my ear, to be precise, was the South African accent of their Hebrew. Where were they from? Israel? And before that, South Africa. The scene was relaxed, the tanks and the men at rest. Their own tank provided shade as we sat and talked. The most important thing I did was distribute postcards and pencils. If they would write out a message then and there, I could mail out a postcard that evening. I recall the silence as they wrote. Obviously, all their thoughts and a whole world of emotions went into the forming of words, which are so inadequate at such moments. One of the boys held a pencil for some time before beginning to write. Although I was anxious to move on, I recall keeping back any indication of impatience. At least in writing their postcards, they should not be rushed. It was on the 15th of October that they wrote their last words.
Neil Fried and Dudi Silbowitz by Daniel Barnett continued. Aryeh Gordon went on. For the rest of the war and after, I often thought of them and wondered if they had made it through. Months later, while lecturing to soldiers at Telcha, a young man came up to me after I had finished. He spoke Hebrew in a South African accent, and he was a tankist. Was he by chance from Israel? I asked. Did he perhaps know anything about the two young men? I remember desperately trying to control my voice as I asked, were they all right? Had they made it? The man was named Jules and was a friend of Neil and Dudi. He told me that they had not made it.
At times like that, there are the conventional words of condolences which we can offer. But to the loved ones of Neil and Dudi, perhaps you will find some small measure of consolation in this, that someone who knew and talked with them once for a moment, fastened onto that moment, hoped with all his might for their well-being, felt the shock and hurt of the terrible news, and mourns them. Neil posthumously marked corporal, and Dudi were both buried on their beloved kibbutz Israel, where a memorial to them exists today. David was 24, Neil 25. They, just like many of us, were compassionate, loving young chevre trying to make a small bit of a difference in a world where difference is challenging.
Every year on the anniversary of their death, former members of Habonim from across Israel gather at Kibbutz Israel to pay their respects to the departed friends. A friend said after one of these memorials, "This project of remembering Neil and Dudi is not just alive, but it is generated from a common, unextinguished flame." Looking back over the years, I can recall times when we could talk with optimism, where brave deeds by great leaders seemingly gave hope for a better future, where it seemed that after centuries of strife, swords could finally be beaten into microchips, and that this troubled corner of the world could finally take its peaceful place in the family of nations.
In 1993, on the 20th anniversary of their death, a reference library and reading room named for Neil and Dudi was opened on Kibbutz Israel. This facility became an integral resource for Olim from Russia and other parts of the world who visited the kibbutz as part of their ulpan. As Neil's sister said at the opening of the library, "I know in my heart that this reading room would have been just what they had wished for." As Neil and Dudi would have said, "Aleh uvneh, let us build."